Before the internship began, I actually half expected it to be canceled, but ITS values the interns, so here we are.
But I was kind of expecting to go back during the summer at some point. Like I think they were considering doing that earlier in the summer, moving everyone back into the office. But I mean, clearly, as things kind of continue to go, all those plans kind of changed. So I was expecting to have that. I think in terms of learning, I was expecting to acquire some of the same skills regardless of whether or not we were in person or otherwise, because the projects are essentially the same either way. And for the most part, I think that's been true. So that's been a positive, I would say.
The weekly intern retreats really helped ease like the transition to online, because we still get to see like all the other interns and the fellows. We see their faces and their names, and we kind of get to know each other through that. So I think that's helped a lot too.
I think ITS has done a really good job of making sure that we're getting the same experience. An example of that is I know a lot of my friends who have internships for the summer that got switched online and they're condensed to only like a few weeks. So this is maybe the only one that I personally know of that stayed the whole length that it was supposed to and just switched online. And also they didn't take away anything, like they didn't take away the cohort project, and they still try to get us to be social, like using Slack, and we have like weekly chats and stuff like that. I think it's a really good way to adapt to the environment.
This whole intense collaboration thing, it's not just a feature of the ITS internship program, it's like the defining feature. So then I was like, oh, okay, so they're really gonna do their best to preserve that element. They did it quite well, and I feel I definitely expected a much less engaging internship, but it didn't turn out like that at all. In fact, I think the planning team really used this time to be creative about how they could work around these difficulties that we have during COVID-19.
Like what I was really looking forward to for this internship, I think learning and networking, right? So getting to know people on the job, just being able to interact with people, work on stuff together. I think we missed out a lot on that because of the pandemic, though I definitely recognize that the planning team is doing all they can to make sure that this experience is as close to the one we would have gotten. And then learning, like Bradley said, I'm learning kind of the same stuff either way. Maybe I would have learned it at a different pace if it were in person, but I like the fact that I'm still learning stuff.
They've been really clear and open about communication, which has been helpful, and they've tried really hard to make it social, like Bria was saying. Like speaking for myself, like in my department, I know that my supervisor and I have like daily check-ins, so that also helps me stay on track and, not go a day without seeing someone if I don't have a meeting for another reason. So it's definitely not what I signed up for, but I think the planning team has tried really hard to make it as good as they can given the circumstances.
Of course, it's not going to be the exact same experience, but like they're still providing those opportunities that they normally provide to you in general to make it feel the same. I meet with my mentor every week, and I talk with my coaches like weekly as well, and my supervisor. And then like the retreats are also a good way to like interact with other interns, especially when we're put into breakout rooms.
After I came here, I had a lot of good guidance from my supervisor, my coaches, my mentor, people from the planning team. So I really think they prepped me for success and for a lot of collaboration, a lot more than I expected.
Just telling myself, like, have faith that, whatever happens, it'll just work out, because at first there was, so much uncertainty, and I was really concerned just about, and I was, so caught up in like, oh my goodness, what's happening with the world, and just reminding myself to like be mindful of focusing on what I can control, because I think for a few weeks I was just, focusing on, all this, the pandemic, but I really can't do much about it. All I can do is just, get out, go on a walk, FaceTime friends, wear a mask, go out, walk to the grocery store.
Finding a comfortable setup in the beginning of the summer would have been more helpful. Like I started with like a wooden chair, which sucked in the beginning, but I had to go back to Ann Arbor and get my desk chair and that kind of thing. So even something as simple as that. And then also I would say like requesting an ITS laptop earlier in the summer, because there was a handful of weeks where I was like just on my own personal laptop, and I had to like continue emailing files back and forth to my supervisor, which was a pain. So I would say being more prepared in the earlier stages.
it definitely took me a long time to really get acclimated to being in my room. I've definitely had to adapt walks during lunchtime just to break up the monotony of sitting in here. I suppose I should have, or I would tell myself to go learn some Django like before all of this, because I've been using it pretty extensively.
Actually, before March 1st, I already know this pandemic because it's already happened in China, and my parents and one of my friends, like, she's really worried about that, and she thinks this pandemic will definitely happen in the United States as well. So she kind of bothers me every day and tells me that you should like buy more food and buy more necessities for your health and for your like future life. So like back to March 1st, I will listen to her and buy more things and store more toilet paper. Yeah.
March 1st, 2020, I think I would tell myself to get in contact with the people I would be working with this summer so I could meet them ahead of time and start to build relationships. The other thing I would have done is go to the store and buy some toilet paper.
What I would tell myself if I could go back to March 1st, just personally for me, would probably be get a planner and don't waste your time. So maybe to buckle down, set a realistic goal, and then work towards it every day. And I should just start doing that now.
Cheer up, you can wear pajamas all the time to your work.
Don't be afraid if you don't have the answer to something, or if you don't have the skill set to be able to answer the question that you have, because the whole part, a big part of this internship and a part of any job is to learn and to experience things. And so if you seek out help and you take risks, then you will learn so much more than you initially thought was possible.
Being an intern, it's like you're only stepping your way into the door of the working world. So there's a lot of room for young individuals to make mistakes and to ask questions. Particular time period that we're living in, where the world is going through so much turmoil. The one positive that I can see from all of these global scale events is the opportunity for change. So I believe that as an intern in this remote working world, we can start to make changes, try out new things, both on a larger scale and a smaller personal scale.
Don't be afraid to fail, and to make use of connections you have, and don't feel afraid to reach out to people for help.
Find good people, because this industry and this field is more about people than about technology, which is something our CIO has also said. And when you find good people, the ideas have less weight, you know what I mean? Like when you have good people, you can make anything happen regardless of the struggles you face.
Invest in relationships, because those are more important than anything else in your personal life and in your work life.
My biggest takeaway is probably don't underestimate yourself, because like we were faced with tons of challenges, and both our departmental work and the cohort project, and you know, it's easy to get discouraged and be like, oh, well, it's all online, we're not meeting in person, it's not going to work out, we're not going to get through this. But I feel like this is just an example. If you like try hard and you just like keep on going at it, keep persevering, then you can still like make a difference.
Since I've had a lot of alone time during this internship, which was not what I was expecting, it's definitely helped me organize my time and everything. In the beginning, I just kind of like had everything in my head, and I would just like do whatever I thought, whatever came to mind. But then I started to write like daily goals and like to-do lists and taking notes and stuff. And I think that helped. And then just like trying to keep myself focused, because that's always been a problem for me, procrastination. So having to like control that and like teaching myself how to do that has been really important. And I probably wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't at home.
The thing I think I learned was probably time management skills. Prior to the pandemic, like it was pretty easy to stay on a schedule because like everything was so structured. Like I knew when I had class, I knew exactly what homework was due and when and stuff like that. But after the pandemic, things got a lot less structured and I had a lot more time on my hands. And at first I didn't use it as productively as I could have. But then like eventually I smoothed that out, and I think I'll like take that with me after all of this.
Being at home, definitely one of the hardest things to do is like focus and like manage your time properly, because if you don't really have anything to do, everything just feels like one big glob of time, and it just all feels the same if you have nothing to do and if you're not organized. So definitely setting that up was probably very important for me.
I kind of enjoy working remotely to an extent, but I also really value in-person interaction more than I anticipated.
The things I learned is people are more resilient, I think, than I was initially, giving people credit for. In the beginning of the summer, I was wondering about how effective like everything in the internship would look, but I think between Zoom and people working through things together, I think people really know how to like get it together and work with what they have, which is something that I think you're forced to do in a situation like the pandemic.
I agree with the time management points that people said. I think that's been a big takeaway for me, and also just the experience of working in a big organization has been really helpful for me to think about. I'm like entering my senior year, so I'm going to want to get a job after I graduate. So just having experience working in a big organization, and also this summer I've had a good balance of like independent work and teamwork. So just getting a taste of everything is like helpful for me to think about what I want going forwards.